Okay. So with us now for the remainder is Mr. Jackson. Got your
Hey,
website here. Hey, sir.
how's it going? Thank you.
Likewise, you have good sound. How's my sound?
Very clear, very clear.
Excellent. Excellent. So you reached out, um, and I felt like your journey, your story was very interesting. So, for all of us, can you please share what is your mission, so to speak? Linwood Jackson Jr.
The mission is, what I've gone through in the past. You go through different things in life, life changes and things like that. Um, Looking for a way, not necessarily a way out, a way into myself,
Mm,
not a way out of myself. And so I didn't have the answers from anyone around me. And I looked into different philosophies of living and of being, and of thinking and of feeling and of acting. They didn't resonate with me, the religions out there. But being raised in a household that was not primarily religious in a sense, but still be aware that there is an eye out there watching you. So, from 7 years old, that was my first interest into writing, actually. I started writing poetry at 7, just by myself, just looking for an outlet. And so now fast forward at the age of 23, 22, 21, going through a life experience where I realized that everything I did was not for me. It was for the philosophy within the household and the philosophy within society. And inevitably in 2013, that landed me in the hospital.
mm,
And so there, at that point, it was either you need to figure out what you are doing wrong to yourself or continue to hurt yourself or not look at yourself.
mm,
So I eventually picked up the Bible, and it was one of those, if you're real, prove yourself to me. And I studied the philosophy within the Bible and the diet that I obtained, the mental and spiritual diet. I regained physical health along with mental health, and I learned that the foundation of the Bible's philosophy is devotional health.
mm,
In that aspect, I started to learn that what is traditionally religious is um, illogical to the philosophy within the Bible, and that the Bible actually teaches the individual mind to stay away from religion, to develop personally your devotion and your mind through the experience of living and cultivating and practically applying the words that we learn when we're studying the Bible. And so going through that experience, I debated with myself if it was right to say something, because I knew that if I'm going through this, there's somebody out there worse going through what I'm going through. And the experience that I went through, I put it down in my first book, which became Perfecting and Reforming Personal Religion. That was my first book, and that was based on the experience that I went through, cultivating the specific counsels that I learned to regain mental, spiritual, and devotional health. And so from that point, the mission just became people need to know that you are worth more than you think you are.
mm,
People need to know that they are not alone in what they're going through. People need to know that each and every single one of us, we're experiencing the same tragedy, sorrows, and joys. And even though it may be not be the same, we're all experiencing it on a vibrational level, and we all can relate with one another. And to do that through the philosophy that is within the Bible, which is a philosophy based upon inward and mental regeneration and rejuvenation for practical living, both at home and both in society through industry. Benevolently giving yourself, once you understand who you are and who you are not, to this age that you're currently living in. And for me, that's what I'm doing right now. I am in the age that I'm living in. I see a lack. I am going into churches. I even speak to different pastors that reach out to me that tell me that they themselves do not believe what they're preaching because what they're being taught in the seminary, it's becoming obsolete, and the effect that it's having is becoming uh, non-effective at this point in time. Being in the age of information that we're in, we need more than simply legend and folklore. And the way that I dissect the words in the Bible, it's not that I'm coming at what is already established traditionally. It's just that when I need to get to what I'm in this about, I have to go through the route of fact. And there is no fact in what is in these churches. And in order for me to get to the fact, I have to say what is not fact, so that then I can get to the point of saying, and this is why you need to love who you are and who you are not. So my literature involves healing inwardly. And at the same time, to get to that, we have to know that there is falsehood in the tradition that we're used to, in the definitions of God and of Jesus and of this. We have to know that this is false to get to what's real. And for me, love is the foundation.
I hear you on a lot of this, and you took away my devil's advocacy, because I'm definitely spiritually minded, but not religious in any sense,
For sure.
Because it doesn't benefit me if I'm, as a storyteller, to ascribe too much to one belief system. But I'm not agnostic in any sense. As Dick Gregory would say, he says, I am God, you are God, so it's, so that's set me on an inward spiritual journey in terms of finding the God within myself, and
for sure, the definition.
And not having the fear of showing who I am, or speaking to my higher self, or tapping into this higher power that energizes us all. I would say. So the new book is called Growth. Can we talk about that before we go deeper? Because we have a few people just tuning in. This is Linwood Jackson Jr., and you can go to his website. You can follow him, please. And he's the author of how many books? 5, 6?
7, 6, 7.
7 books.
I believe.
That are exploring the spiritual nature of our lives. So, Growth. What inspired this book?
My 9-year journey, putting the counsels in the Bible into practice. So often we're trained, whether it is societally or religiously, to believe in a set of rules, standards, and stipulations in order to be perceived as beautiful. And there's 2 philosophies that are in the Bible. The first philosophy is beauty through doing handwritten religious rites, traditions, baptisms, ceremonies, feasts, so on and so on, and ascribing what you're doing to a particular entity in the sky watching you, so that then you are favored. In the Bible, this is perceived as the false form of philosophy, of religious philosophy. On the contrary, the true form of philosophy is practical application personally, and applying within the life practically, for knowledge to ascribe to the heart to live by, and to also die by, so that we can grow. And that's where the whole book came from, Growth. It's me beginning this 9-year journey of practically applying the counsel that I've retained from the living God into my life. And each poem is dedicated to a specific period in time where my thoughts and my feelings were coming into contact with my character, and the two were learning how to form in a union or in a marriage. So the entire book is basically poems of marriage between my thoughts and my feelings and my character. And it's just interesting, because we're all that growth, that need to develop as not simply just a human being, but the condition within our human being that is naturally unhealthy, to get that healthy, to get our thoughts right, and then to do what we can do for the people around us because of what we're doing is difficult.
Right.
And it's difficult because we're trained. I don't have 65 years and a habit that I have to break. I have 21 years and a habit that I have to break. And added on to that, a couple more years of new habits that I have to apply to. And so depending on where we are, it's difficult, and that's just the beauty of life and of being a human.
Well, let's take this idea of growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you said that in order for you to grow, you had to reject a lot of the things that you were conditioned to believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, speak on that just a little bit, because I know that people will be watching as this ends up on YouTube, as your name continues to build. What are some of those circumstances that forced you into this realization?
It stems from the mindset that you're placed in from the home. And I would say especially in the Black home. In the Black home, you have goals that are attributed white goals, right? So you want to have a child, and when you have your child, you're seeing these goals for the child. But the environment of that child is not the same environment of a white child. So the goals that are set, beautiful goals. There's nothing wrong with those goals. Absolutely beautiful goals. It's just that the means that are there, according to the perception that is placed against you, is something that you're not taking into consideration as a parent raising a child. And so having that mindset of you are a different form of person based on how you look. So you need to have more degrees than the next man, and you need to have this more than the next man, and you need to do this more than the next man. Okay, so doing that and going out in there, you're seeing that at this point in time, and especially in the age we live in, because we're not in the 80s anymore, it's a different standard of society. And the way that society operates, it's a little bit different. So when you go out there, you're realizing that what you were taught back then in the 90s and then in the early 2000s, the standard is changing. And so what I was taught is not applying. And then you go out into the society that the home is training you for. And then you're realizing that in order to actually be a member of this society, I have to lose a part of my conscience and I have to lose a part of myself to do it. You know, it's like, they say it's a
But
dream, but it's actually a nightmare.
I think that's America. I mean,
Indeed.
maybe worse so for the darker hues, but I think all Americans have been sold the same bill of goods. We're in a
Yeah.
different landscape at this point. But I do think I would agree with you that parents have dropped the ball. I'm 51. You know, I'm like the last vestiges of the civil rights era, and I was one of the first black kids to integrate my grade school and so on and so forth. So I experienced firsthand this optimism that people had, and then when it was reflected on television in A Different World and The Cosby Show, I think I was a true believer in that. But now, as I see in the music and in the culture that this bill of goods just isn't working for society, young people in society. As we just had Eli on, he was saying in Puerto Rico, they've established a revolutionary attitude, and they have, you know, they're making changes in a sense to take control of not only their lives but the society they live in. So speak to me more in terms
Yeah.
of your own realizations.
And with that, with everything that you said, I got to a certain point in time that I realized that the society in the home isn't me. The society outside isn't me. I am something that is not out there or my environment that I'm raised in. I need to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what changed for me, is realizing that what I'm being taught, whether publicly or privately, it's not necessarily what I am born to believe. Why I'm not born to believe it, I don't know. But when I'm alone and I'm writing, I'm seeing a different me come out on those pages. And as I review what I'm writing, I'm finding it difficult to not be what I'm seeing on those pages. And so if it's a little bit different when you're going through, you need to be like this. And then you go out and it's like, you can't be like this. And then it's like, you go through the educational institution that we have, which is as constraining as it is, and even more so, you get lost going through the system. And at home, you get lost because you're not being trained on to activate who you are internally as a being, as a soul, and not simply as a child or as someone that needs to be cared for. And going through that experience, you realize that something's missing. And finding out that something is missing got scared because I don't know what I am or who I am, even though I'm raised by these people that look like me. And I'm going out in an educational field where nobody like me is excelling. I need to excel within my own self, because if this is life and the standards of society and at home are what they are, being a natural being, I wasn't born into that.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to understand what I am connected to. And then I need to grow into what I am connected to. And that's the change that came for me.
Well, I'm glad you went inward because there are a lot of younger people that try to reflect success, popularity, the thing that they feel is missing through celebrity, through fame, through outside. I feel like the biggest problem we have as Black people is we reverse engineer success based on exterior factors, right? So, and my joke is, it's hard to find a woman in this world, not because there's a lack of eligible Black women, it's that they want the same two types of men. They either want Barack Obama or Lil Wayne, and I'm neither, because that's what we see as successful. However, becoming successful is a whole different journey, environment, landscape. How do you connect with yourself when you're in this process of writing?
Exactly like you said, and I'll just go back to what you were talking about from the aspect of Black. This might sound a little weird. I don't know how it's going to sound, but that term, I can't get with it. I'm Black and I'm proud. Black lives matter. As a writer, I don't look at life, I guess, as everybody else. For me, language and context create environment. So when I hear words, the environment is created through the dialect and through the context of what is being spoken. And dialect, I'm not necessarily referring into tongue, I'm saying like tense. And so when I hear the word Black, I immediately go to the definition of Black, which is abysmal, which is without light, which is darkness, which is unable to be recuperated. And I'm saying this for the very fact of there's individuals that do study the Bible that call themselves Christians that do not know that the term is actually derogatory. And so you've got people that are calling themselves these names, institutionalized names that are actually derogatory. And if they had to step away from these names, they would actually find out who they actually are in reality, not associated to a term that some individual in Europe, but the European mind gave to then be ascribed, or a Western Roman mind. You then get to define yourself. And so as a writer, I disconnect from everything. Even what I believe I am when I'm writing, I disconnect from it in order to find out the me that I am, because I look like this on the outside, but on the inside, I can promise you I don't look like this. I can promise you I do not look like this. If you had to strip everything off of me, all you would see is an essence. And an essence without skin color, without gender, without this, that, and the other, all of these things come to us through biology. Essence, in a sense, is mind. So if you had to just strip you down, strip me down, strip everybody listening down, all we are is mind. So when I'm writing, I disconnect from everything and get to mind. That way I can be able to name myself what I am and be comfortable with what I am and with who I am not. I would say that that's how I connect all of that to the scheme of private and public society, is the disconnection to then reconnect.
Okay, well, Branch for the birds, she says, I love this. So can we go deeper, Branch?
Oh, Branch, please. Let us go deeper.
Anybody watching, feel free to type in questions, because I'm just an open vessel for this. Linwood reached out to me on the humble, and I said, let's try it this way. So we're just having a conversation, and you're certainly all welcome to join in.
I just want to say also respect to you, because the interviews you do and everything, like, man, for me to be on here with you, it's like crazy for me right now. I'm keeping it cool, but it's kind of crazy for me to be on here right now, because I respect the work that you do.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, and I know that you mean it. Here's one that's interesting. What you're talking about, the essence. One of the projects that's been long in the hopper, trying to get the resources and the money together. We did a piece on Leon Ware, and when he came to town, for those who don't know, Leon Ware was a songwriter for Motown, and he's best known for being the writer and producer of Marvin Gaye's "I Want You" album. right? And when I first met him, I was just like, oh, what was it like working with Marvin Gaye? And we had these long conversations that I recorded. And he's deeply spiritual. And one of the most interesting things, the reason I knew I couldn't just put this out on YouTube, he said to me that when he was a child, he lost his eyesight, and he was put in, something happened, and he was put in, like, for one eye to heal, they had to close both eyes at a very young age, and he was in the same school for the blind as Stevie Wonder. And at that young age, he learned not to look at people based on the cosmetic feature. He learned to look inside people. You know, he could see inside people's soul, inside their spirit, and gauge. He's one of the most kind-hearted people I ever met. But that, and his song, the song "Inside My Love" by Minnie Riperton, is something that he co-wrote with Minnie Riperton. So, you know, I just wanted to throw that out there. It is very, very, very important that we learn to discover what Linwood is speaking on, which is to look beyond the physical appearance. It's very important because I'm not Barack Obama and I'm not Lil Wayne. So, perfecting and reforming personal religion. This is one of your more recent books. Can you speak on that?
This is the very first one.
Oh, okay.
Very, 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 very first. And it was basically, the book is framed around counsels and I guess thoughts and thought patterns of how to overcome the deficiency of who you see you are and who you know you are. And if you're ready to fight that. And I'll say one of them, because the Bible isn't primarily a secular book, which is taken out of context today. Most of the things in there are related to what is secular, which shouldn't be done. Primarily, the Bible is a book on philosophy and the correction of philosophy, and it's firstly mental. I say that just to prepare for the first thing I'm going to say of what I learned. The first concept that I learned to heal myself in a dietary manner is the concept of not eating meat. And this philosophy in the Bible, taken primarily from the Bible, first is mental. And it goes back to, what do we consider as meat? And meat is necessarily the specific idols that we have in our heart, the substance that we know that we cannot live without, but we know is harmful for us in some way, even though we don't in the moment know it. It's a meat that we grasp onto, that we need to digest for comfort and for disengaging to then re-engage. So I can only engage with myself if I like to abuse myself, because if I can abuse myself, I can then be level-headed. That's just the mind state.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting away from the specific meat that we have in our heart, when we can refrain from that and learn how to on a daily basis consistently, which involves a lot of failure, but also a lot of going forward from it. You learn that you can live without it, and you can learn that there can be things that are used for a better outlet because of it. And then you can also learn why it's harmful. So putting that into practice, learning what my particular meats are and the diet of my meat is, cutting that out and dealing with the withdrawal process. And the withdrawal process is basically your thoughts and your feelings dictating your actions. So going through a period of time where you are not acting on specific thoughts motivated by specific habits that you use to feel clean and clean enough to deal with yourself.
So is this abstinence or fasting? I mean, how is this ritualized?
It's ritualized mentally. So it would be fasting from what you mentally need in order to be able to live the life that you want to live. And in that sense, cutting away that meat, which is not you, you're just using it to divert yourself because you don't want to look at yourself. When you can get rid of that, now you can deal with the pain of who you are. You can deal with the pain, and you can struggle with that pain to actually realize worth, because that's the point. The point is worth. The point is you understanding your worth, not from anything or anyone without, but from within, and in a more intimate, special way with your own self. You know, it goes back to the book Growth, loving you you loving you, you loving you. And to do that, the first step, or one of the first steps that I write about in that book, is the diet, the mental and devotional diet of staying away from particular meats in the heart, both naturally and religiously.
Okay, I'm gonna hold this up. Is this the actual cover that's on
Yep,
Amazon or?
yep, yep.
Okay, so
That's the actual cover.
that's that's the book that he's speaking of, and the themes that are expressed there. If it's not backwards, is it forward to you or?
It's looking backwards to me.
Okay,
Perfecting,
so
reforming personal religion.
okay,
Yeah.
it's Instagram. You can't get it 100%. So that means my eye is on the wrong. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's backwards. Now I see it. There's a question here from Eli. In the recreating of your identity, you're going to have to flip, remix, give new meaning to old ways and words. Can you, Linwood, can you speak on that part of the journey of self-realization?
Depends on what aspect, because the self-realization in a sense is you analyzing who you are to then manifest who you are and who you are not at the same time. And it goes back to that question. Inside the question, it said the redefining of specific terms and habits in order for that self-realization. So going through that process, that journey, if you're willing to take that journey, and if you're willing to get down with you, the you inside, because so much of us has been hidden by what we traditionally have been taught and brought up with, there's a you in there that has to get out, that has definitions. And just like that question said, the reframing of our environment is the point of identity, which is the point of self-realization. But at the end of it, it's actualization for a cause and effect. It's not simply like just to say you need to realize your worth. That's not enough, because I can realize my worth through a number of venues and still not realize my worth. It's that when you can realize your worth and then can realize what your skills and your talents can do by what you're worth, and then you can put that outward into the environment and then let that energy get out and then let that energy return back to you. That's the ultimate goal of self-realization. When you as self can realize that there is no self without other, and when you can realize that there is no black without white, then you can realize that everything that you do and everything that you are and everything that you are using to substitute for who you should be, it's affecting your age. Not age as in life, I mean age as in generation. It's affecting the age that you're living in, and it's also affecting the stream around you, the environment around you. So who you are not, you're not fulfilling yourself, you are destroying your age right now. If you're doing your best to be your best and to consistently be your best and just to change that diet of the meat in your life and to pick up a new refreshing diet, you're going to gain a realization of who you are and who you are not. The identity will be there. And the point of that identity is to then give that identity out so that it can be returned to you from others of the same vibration, going through what you're going through, and have nobody to tell them that you are worth more than what you think you are.
Well, I mean, I love this. Well, no, I appreciate it. I love what you're saying. I mean, a lot of gurus and people that tout personal religion, before I get into that question, which would be, finding your sense of purpose, which is what a lot of new age authors will discuss. Like, you can't do anything until you understand your sense of purpose. What, besides the Bible, what other writings were you reading in this birthing process of you becoming a writer? Like,
None.
what inspired? None?
The only thing that inspired me was my own self-reflections. So as I'm writing and as I'm reflecting on what I'm writing and as I'm reading that, I'm becoming inspired at the loss that I see in myself. And it's that inspiration from the loss that I see in myself that I'm realizing that I'm more than this. I'm more than bones. I'm more than mind. I'm more than any kind of ology or ism that exists and that has been coined. And that that was my motivation. I really don't, because
No.
my
Oh
experience
wait,
is
no wait,
mine.
time,
So
time out.
yeah, yeah.
We have to give it up here. William Alkema has joined. He speaks German. I was just
Okay.
speaking about Marvin Gaye. He did the definitive Marvin Gaye documentary, people. It's called Remembering Marvin Gaye, and it's Marvin Gaye in Oslo, right? In his exile from the time period. William had the opportunity to spend time with Marvin Gaye after he left the bread truck in Hawaii, and he
Wow.
filmed this great documentary. You're not going to find it on my channel, but it is floating around. It's called Remembering Marvin Gaye. So shout out to Willem. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sure.
Please continue.
Um, Man, I forgot where I left off at.
Well,
But it was
let's.
basically
Oh,
the
the inspiration
yeah,
within yourself to do these writings without any influence from other spiritual authors.
it was just basically my self-reflections. Getting a better definition of the word being and my reason for being personally and through writing.
Deep. So we got time for one more before we're going to get the signal that we have to
Oh,
stop.
okay.
But we have about 10 more minutes before they stop us on this chat. But the Fallen Record, the Christian Transgression, what do you want people to know about that book?
Well, that is a book that I wrote because I kept getting a lot of questions about why I am in church and it doesn't feel right, or why am I reading something in the Bible but the Christian religion teaches something different, or how come, I feel this way, but the Christian religion tells me that what I feel is wrong. And so how come what I feel is not in the Bible, but it's in the Christian religion? And then my thing is just like, it's in the Bible. I mean, you just have to dig for it. The experience is within the words, and that's what the book is about. The book traces the history of how the Christian church actually left the philosophy that the very first apostles, Paul, Peter, John, and them boys, that they taught, how the Jewish ministers began to call themselves Christian, and then how they began to adopt a specific figure for a specific central point of religious view, for a specific religious philosophy, to then monopolize that philosophy and to get away from the actual spiritual understanding that is within the words of the Bible. So that book is just a tracking of history from how the Christian church actually deviated from the position of the firstly commissioned apostles. Yes. Oh, that is wow. That's framed perfectly.
See how fast I do it?
That's amazing.
Yeah, I flipped it. I flipped it so you can read it. Anyway, so that's the. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're clearly a very sensitive spirit, and I'm glad that we made this connection. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna see if I can do some more of your covers and flip the image, because this is fun. This is the fun part. We're getting a little deep. Any final questions? We have about 5 minutes left, and you're welcome, Philip. No questions popping up. Okay. So, Battle of Hosts, the controversy of the sixth seal.
This is a book that is centered around the Christian ideal of a second coming of an individual from the sky. And this isn't actually what the Bible teaches. So in this book, I actually dissect the language and the context of the book of the Revelation. And I gauge that language and context with the history that is written in the book of Ezekiel and the Kings and the Chronicles about the conflict between Nebuchadnezzar and Pharaoh. And what the book of the Revelation has done is the book of the Revelation has taken the history between these two nations and has made it not literal, but has made it figurative. And in a sense, being figurative, it's not necessarily real. There is a real meaning underneath the figurativeness of the illustration that is given. And this book dissects that illustration as an introduction, but still thoroughly and completely, to show what the definition of certain terms mean in the book of the Revelation.
So you go from you go all the way. Is Revelation the book that you look at most when you decide that you want to contemplate on these ideas? Or, I mean, because a lot of people, I mean, there's a question about aspiring writers, but a lot of people, I don't have the impetus to read these teachings, but a lot of people are looking at this year 2020 as one of revelation. I mean, what's your reading of all these things that are going on in 2020 for you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't look at them either because they're still based off of theological theories that are based on assumptions from Christian philosophers, anciently and modernly. They have no weight with anything that is within the Bible concretely. What's going on it really has nothing to do with what is in the Bible. The elements that are out there, I'm not saying that they're not putting in place something to be set up. Nothing anytime soon is related to anything in the Bible of what's going on in this reality. And not even close, but the assumption is going to always be made because it's just what pagan religions have done in the past and still do currently. They look at secular activities as being signs of some kind of other dimensional forecasting, and it's wrong to do and it's misleading. And the Bible has what's going on right now. There is nothing concretely that I can tell you. If I said anything, I would be lying to you. But there is nothing that can be linked at this point in time to anything that the Bible says in the book of the Revelation that is relevant.
So that basically the sun will come out tomorrow.
Of course.
and just do what you need to do. But by all means, follow, like, subscribe, Linwood T. Jackson. And your books are on Kindle and hardcover, it looks like. So.
Oh. Is there a T? No T. It's just Linwood Jackson Jr.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Brandon T. Jackson. That's my fault.
Okay.
He's another one. No, I'm not saying Hollywood did a number on Brandon and now he walks around with a cape. You know? But he's very righteous and humble, and I love him, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Any advice for aspiring authors before?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get to that one. The only thing I would say is stay true to your brand. You're going to go through a lot of trashy individuals. You are going to get hurt along the way, and all of that is only placing energy out there so you can just have return to you what you're giving out, and eventually you will meet the right connections, and you will have people on your team that not only love you but that respect and want to get out the message that you give more than you, which is something I am now coming into contact with. So for an aspiring author, stay true to who you are, stay true to your personal etiquette as a writer, and you will attract the tribe that you're supposed to attract.
Wonderful words. Well, it was amen, ashe, hallelujah. You know, what do Jewish people say?
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. There you go. So I think we got them all in, and you know, I think it is important to know who you are. Look within yourself first before you start buying into other people's BS, because that's the nature of human nature. Is we want to have power over one another, and I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I know a lot of people are programmed to be led, and I think it's important that the right people are leading. So by all means, check out Linwood Jackson Jr.'s books, and I reluctantly say we should vote. And optimistically, I hope that 45 is being treated with this bleach program that he tried to thrust on us when we were sick and not able to do anything. So more power to you. Shalom. There you go. Thank you. Thanks everybody for checking us out. And again, if you missed the beginning, we should be back November 2nd on YouTube. We're just having a little bit of difficulty with our copyright strike situations, but that doesn't mean that we stop working. And there's lots of great content that I've been mining and finding. I don't have anything right here that I can show you, but keep hope alive. Thanks, Linwood. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, peace.